967theeagle.com. This is a topic-based program, and we ask that you keep your comments brief, concise, and related to the topic being discussed. The views expressed on Sound Off are those of the hosts or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Sound Off for another episode talking about politics here in LaPorte County and what's impacting your life. Obviously, it's in the middle of the election season. We only have a couple weeks left until you're going to go to the voting booth, unless you've already done it. But until you go there and pick who you're going to vote for local elections and statewide and national elections, things like this, our goal is to get you more informed, though, so that when you go into the ballot box, you know who you're voting for, and that you're not just picking some random people, that you actually want to vote for the people that you're voting for. Many times before, I've went to different ballots, I've went to different elections, and if I don't know the candidates, I just don't choose one, because I can't decide to pick somebody that I don't know. So it's been my goal to get you to know some of the people that are on your election. Now, we're in a weird place here in LaPorte because of redistricting. They separated us, but we will not let those who wish to separate us in our districts divide us in our hearts, correct? So half of you in LaPorte are now in Indiana District 1, where Jennifer Ruth Green is taking on Frank Mervan, and half of you are still in Indiana 2. And today on the show, we've got the Democratic candidate, Paul Sturry, for Indiana 2. We did invite Republican Rudy Yakim, but he has not responded back to us yet. Hopefully we'll get him on a show soon as well. But if you have a question, don't call. We're not doing calls right now during these run of shows. We'll get back to the calls and everything. But during this run of shows, we're not, only because we want to give the candidates as much time as possible to talk about their platforms and to talk about the things that you want them to talk about. So if you want them to answer a question, just give me a text. All right? Shoot me a text. The number is 219-362-0522, or you can always email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. All right, let's get to our show today. I'm looking forward to it. On the show today is Democratic candidate for Indiana 2, Paul Sturry. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I do have some cold feet just because temperature's going down and the wind is coming out of the west. It's chilly out there.
It is. I was telling the team here at 96.7 The Eagle that probably in January wouldn't feel as cold as it does, but it does right now because it was a lot warmer not too long ago. So It is. Our bodies are getting accustomed to it, and I wish I could turn the heat up in the studio another 10 degrees, but it is what it is. All right. So it's good to have you on the show today. You are running for Democratic candidate. You're the Democratic candidate running for Indiana District 2. Obviously, very sadly, Jackie Walorski, who was in that position before, passed away in a car wreck, and so you are now facing Rudy Yakim. Why did you want to run in this race? What made you want to get involved in running for congressional politics? And talk a little bit about your story.
Well, thanks for the invite to this radio show. It's fantastic. I was born on an 80-acre pig farm down south of Fort Wayne, and so I was taught the joys of being in the agricultural world, and we had 200 piglets, 12 sows, and 2 boars, and I fondly I loved growing up on that farm just because of the ability to see how Mother Nature gives. And then when in 1970 Dad said chemicals are coming, let's sell the farm, so we sold the farm. I moved to Camp Mack in Milford, Indiana. It's a 100-acre Church of the Brethren farm, and there my dad was the head caretaker, my mom was the head cook, and I was the head brat, part monkey, part fish. Loved growing up there, and because it's a Church of the Brethren camp, and we were part of the Church of Brethren Church, one thing that we really learned as a kid is the golden rule: do unto others you want them to do unto you. And Jesus' second commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. And that's what I really want to take with me to Congress. Moved to the big city of Goshen when I was 13. It was pretty scary because it was 25,000 people. Whew. But then I got my undergraduate in sociology at Goshen College. Worked with men with autism for 10 years. But I was living in Los Angeles, working with these men that were autistic men that were living in a group home, and my job was to dismantle them and dismantle the group home and move them into their own apartments with their own staff. And it was just a fantastic way of helping them grow. But I was living up in the mountains. Beautiful, beautiful blue skies. I loved living up there, but I had to drive down every day into brown smog. And I was thinking, what can I do to make a difference? And I said to myself, environmental education, because what does environmental education do? It helps you learn how to love where you live. And if you love where you live, you want to know more about it. And if you want to know more about it, then you want to take better care of it. And so went to IU Bloomington to get my master's in outdoor resources management with an emphasis in environmental education. Then I got a job working in the Smoky Mountains National Park as an education director at the Great Smoky Mountains Institute at Tremont, which was an environmental education residential center. And I loved living there too. Close to Cades Cove. And we would bring students in from all over the country just to go for hikes and discover what a national park is like. And one time we brought in some Memphis, Tennessee teenagers, and we were sitting around the campfire, and I told them what my definition of what environmental education is basically to help create an environmentally literate and responsible citizen. I said, well, what's your definition of environmental education? And one of the girls actually said, environmental education to me is getting rid of guns, getting rid of drugs, and making sure fathers stay with their kids. And that was just a mind-blowing experience for me.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit if we can. So you want to get, one of your passions is environmental education and environmental kind of sustainability in the United States. So I've got some questions about that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So there's a big debate, right, about what is responsible environmentalism, what is not, what can the what is right to do, but also leveraging that with what can our economy handle, these kind of things. So for you, as somebody that has environmental education, has spent time teaching in college and in high school, environmentalism and things like this, what do you think is sensible legislation for environmentalism, and where would you want to see that happen and go as a legislator?
Climate action.
Yeah.
That's my first.
And what does that look like?
Well, for me, I've been actually the coordinator of Citizens Climate Lobby up here in the Goshen area. Mm-hmm. And what is Citizens Climate Lobby? It's a all-volunteer lobbyist group that is trying to get a bill that would actually charge a fee to fossil fuel industry. And that would be basically $10 per ton of CO2 that they produce and put into the air. And then that's the fee, and then the dividend is there'd be $300 that would go out to each household in the entire country. $300 per household in the entire country. That tells you how much CO2 they're putting into the air. I did have a farmer once say, hey, our plants need CO2. How can it be a pollutant? Well, it's hard to fathom that we produce so much CO2 that there's not enough plants that can take in all the CO2 produced. That's why it becomes pollutant and goes up into the air. And so what we'd like to do is then make sure that it becomes this bill that will actually then cause the fossil fuel industry to actually start thinking about future instead of just thinking about making a profit. And because we have to stop putting that much CO2 into the air. Another bill I'd like to really promote is the senator here from Indiana, who actually has something called Growing Climate Solutions, and it's actually offering monies towards growing plants, because what do plants do? They sequester carbon. And what does that mean? They're just a vacuum taking in all the CO2, all the carbon that's out there, and puts it into the wood and into the roots and into the soil. And so why shouldn't a farmer get paid for that? Or why shouldn't a forester get paid for that? And to keep those plants alive and take good care of them. And there's already basically information out there that tells you what plant takes in more CO2 than others, and so then whatever you grow, then you'd get a different price.
So this would be essentially governmentally incentivized. Obviously there's a lot of incentives for farmers, these kind of things already, but this would incentivize certain types of crops for farmers to grow that are more environmentally sustainable and things like this. Is that the idea?
Correct. And actually, one thing I would really like to push is also do it for the homeowner, because sometimes people just like to cut down their trees because, it drops too many leaves. Well, if you actually are getting paid monthly or annually for that tree being there, you'd think twice about that. And for me also, when I see hedgerows being taken out by farmers, I go, come on. Why take, yes, you get a few more bushels, which is understandable, but what if you actually get paid for that carbon sequestration? That's actually future thinking. And that's one main reason why I'm running, is because I want us to be a future thinker, thinking about my son's grandchildren, not just thinking about today.
All right, yeah, I've got some more questions on that, but we got to take our first commercial break on the show. We've got Paul Sturry, who's running for United States Congress in the Indiana 2nd District on the show. It's a joy to have you here today on the show. I'm sure our listeners have some questions as well. If you do, you're welcome to text me at 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. We'll get to your questions when we get back. If not, I've got a lot more. Hey, Paul, it's great to have you on the show. Just stay right there. We'll be right back after this messages on 96.7 The Eagle.
You wouldn't sign a contract without reading it. So why are our elections certified before we completely audit them? Currently, only 5 out of 92 counties get audited at the end of each election cycle, but the results don't get reported. I'm Jeff Maurer, and I'm running for Indiana Secretary of State. As your Secretary of State, I want you to have a receipt for your vote, an independent audit of all 92 counties, and impartial election results you can trust. I will champion Hoosier small businesses so our entrepreneurs can build their dreams and feed their families. Hoosiers deserve a Secretary of State they can count on. This November, vote for me, Jeff Maurer, for Secretary of State. Call or text me at 317-721-6438 or visit MaurerForIndiana.com. I'm Jeff Maurer, and I approve this message. This announcement paid for by Maurer for Indiana.
Satisfy your cravings on the go with the new Subway app. Download the app today for faster checkout and daily specials. Your local Subway restaurants bring you delicious ingredients and mouth-watering flavors in a variety of sandwich, salad, and wrap combinations. Subway offers an alternative fast food offering fresh-cut veggies, toppings, and freshly baked bread. Your nearby Subway locations are 1109 East Lincoln Way and 216 Pine Lake Avenue. Sandwich artists are ready to take your order in person, online, or in the Subway app.
It's no wonder LiftMaster is the #1 professionally installed garage door opener. LiftMaster's MyQ technology alerts you if you forgot to close your garage door and lets you close it from anywhere, anytime with built-in Wi-Fi. It also has battery backup, so you can get in your garage even when the power's out.
Don't panic. MC Doors same-day service is here for you. Go to mcdoors.com. That's right, mcdoors.com.
Hello, this is Sheila Brilson-Matias, and I'm running for re-election as your LaPorte County Commissioner. Voters have 2 choices in this election. Follow a path of disdain, disrespect, and quite frankly, discord, and dishonesty, or let's talk about what's really important to you in your daily life. I work for you. I remain focused on creating good paying jobs, expanding broadband for everyone, listening to real people, solving real problems that impact you. You know me. I raised my family here, so I understand your concerns. It's important to have a commissioner that can hear you. And I'm always listening. I will keep up my focus on civility, respectful discourse, and inclusion. I have done it before, I am doing it now, and with your vote, I will do it again. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 8th for me, Sheila Brilson Matias, LaPorte County Commissioner. For me, it's not about politics, it's about people. Paid for by the Committee to Re-elect Sheila Matias.
Join 96.7 The Eagle every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. for Calvary Baptist Church's Faith and Worship Sermons. You'll be enlightened with Pastor Tim Schreier's Words of God and music. Be sure to join us every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. for Calvary Baptist Church's Faith and Worship Sermons. If you like what you heard, be sure to join them at Calvary Baptist Church's location on Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock for worship. Calvary Baptist Church is located on I Street here in LaPorte.
Hi, this is Andy Heineck, candidate for LaPorte County Sheriff. As a military veteran and a 22-year member of the Sheriff's Office who has worked in every division, I believe I have the experience to be your next sheriff. My goals once elected are reduce recidivism amongst the inmates, expand our mental health services, and focus on the heroin epidemic. I've dedicated my life to serving our community, and I'm asking for your support. Please vote Andy Heineck for Sheriff. Paid for by the committee to elect Heineck Sheriff.
Michiana weather. Scattered rain showers likely this afternoon, otherwise cloudy. Highs level off around 42, winds out of the northwest, 20 to 25 miles per hour. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. Right now, 37.
We're waiting to hear from you. Dial or text 362-0522 and let us know what you think. That's 362-0522. Back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back, friends. You're listening to Sound Off. My name's Nate Laux. It's good to have you with us today on the show. Again, you can text us at 219-362-0522 if you have a question for our guest today. And we are honored to have candidate for the Indiana 2nd District for Congress, Paul Sturry, who's the Democratic candidate there. Paul, we've got a lot of questions coming in that I wanted to give you, and so you can answer these for our listeners. Here's a question we received. I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. What Biden administration policies, if any, does the candidate disagree with?
I don't really disagree with much of what he has, because I think he's actually doing a great job. I specifically like the Inflation Reduction Act just because that addresses climate change. That's another elephant in the room. And it actually works on electrifying the country. And people say we can't afford to do that, but you know what? Gosh darn it. We are building the largest solar farm in the entire country in Stark and Pulaski County. It's going to be a 1.3 gigawatt solar farm, enough for 275,000 homes. So Inflation Reduction Act, I love. I like that he's actually working on negotiations with Ukraine and Russia. I wish we could put more pressure on them without the whole risk of World War II, which is, we have to stay there for Ukraine, because if not, it might get crazy, and I don't want it to be that way. I'm a big negotiator, I'm a big networker, and actually I'm a big bipartisan person. That's why I talked about Mike Braun, Senator Braun's bill, but growing climate solutions. I think we have to work together to actually make a difference. And so the main reason I hesitate siding 100% with Biden's rules is just because we haven't negotiated or compromised or anything. Because when you see it 51-50 all the time, that's just horrible. We need to work together to make the world, the country, a better place.
All right.
It is the United States, not the divided states, and we have to make it more united. And that's what I'd like to do. Is I'd like to get in there and talk.
All right, Paul Sturry, we got another question for you here. What are your thoughts on the Second Amendment rights?
Like I've told people before, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, but I'm also a firm believer in the 26 others. And I grew up on that pig farm, and we'd go hunting over Thanksgiving as a family, rabbit hunting. And I believe that we should be allowed to have weapons because the Constitution says it, Second Amendment. But also I believe that if a weapon is created for the military, it should stay for the military. And because remember, I was also a high school science teacher the past 2 years, and we would have lockdown drills just because of the craziness, like Uvalde, Texas. It is so distressing, and we're trying to teach students, but if we're fearful of a guy coming in with a automatic weapon, it's not right. And so we must do some sort of regulations. But then going back to that, by bipartisanship, we have to work together and compromise back and forth, and not just have it be a Democratic bill. It needs to be decided between the two parties.
All right, here's a question for you from some of our listeners. You talk about new energy and green energy, these kind of things, but the most effective form of energy is nuclear energy. Do you favor building more nuclear power plants?
100%, yes, because it is incredible. Chicago has 2 nuclear power plants to run the entire city. That's incredible. But the concern I have is not the fear of explosion, because we do a really great job of regulating. But my fear is the understanding of the toxicity of the waste. And so I'm a big proponent of micronuclear that they're talking about, but I'd also like to think about making sure that we have fusion nuclear reactors happen in the future. And as soon as we have that happen, that's going to be our energy source for the rest of Kingdom Come. And I'm not sure if you guys know what the difference is between fusion and fission. Fission is what we have right now. It's where you separate uranium, and it actually causes a small waste, but it also creates this excessive amount of energy when you do that. Fusion is when you take 2 hydrogens and fuse together, just like the sun. They've been working on it for 75 years. They just can't control and harness the amount of energy created because it gets up to 100 million degrees. They've been able to harness it for 1 second. To go beyond that, things melt. So how do we do that? We work, actually, what's great about this whole project on fusion is they are working with basically all the countries of the world are trying to make this happen.
All right, we have a question here about, again, border security, these kind of things. Again, as a legislator, obviously we don't live on a border state, but immigration does impact us all. Our sheriff here in LaPorte County recently went down to the border and saw and said that there seemed to be just a lot of huge issues down there. What do you make of the border issue, security issue? What kind of things would you like to see prioritized in border security in America?
For me, support the organizations that are working down there on border security and immigration as much as we can. Laws are laws, and if they're broken, they're broken. So we need to make sure that people go through legal ramification or legal realms. Kansas recently has been talking about migration or migrants that come in legally. And maybe we could also not just have them come for agriculture and slaughterhouses, but also for factories and hospitality, and all the different arenas that we're having some shortfalls on right now. And so I truly would love to look at that for all states. And then I would like to help create basically citizenship, making that much easier and cheaper and less time. And why? I just talked to a doctor from India who lives in Granger, which is part of District 2, says it's taken 14 years for him to become a citizen, but he's doing great stuff for the Beacon Hospital downtown South Bend, but he's still waiting for his citizenship. One other thing I'd like us to do is actually to address the reasons why so many people want to move from Central America and Mexico to here, is because they're having such problems down there with drug lords and just with the way life is. And so if we could better them down there, then they wouldn't want to come across the borders the way they are. Mm-hmm. I don't believe we're having as much of a problem as a lot of people like to say we are, and I don't think that Biden just opened up the borders and let everyone come across. It's basically the same as it was. I do not like the idea of the wall, because I don't think it actually works, because I've seen videos of people crawling up and over them pretty easily.
All right, yeah, it's certainly not a new issue. I know each party likes to blame each other on all of these kind of things, but if you've been around politics long enough, you know that border security, in my lifetime anyway, has been talked about since the George W. Bush era, and probably before that even. So, we're going to take a quick break here. We've got more questions coming in for you about abortion, about a couple other things that I'll get to after this commercial break. Thank you so much for listening. Paul, thanks for being a guest here today. We've got lots of show left, about 15 minutes left. We're going to be right back here after this break.
Hi, friends. Chief Deputy Ron Heeg here, and your Republican candidate for LaPorte County Sheriff. I'm a 25-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office, starting my career within the jail, working my way through the ranks to my current role of having the honor to serve as Sheriff Boyd's Chief Deputy. My campaign consists of 3 strategic goals: public safety, personnel investment, and community investment. I'm married to my wife, Heather, and we live in Kankakee Township with our daughters, Olivia and Allison. I humbly ask for your vote on or before November 8th. Paid for by Heeg for Sheriff.
Hey, LaPorte County, Surf's fiber internet is more reliable and 25 times faster than cable. Get 1 gig speed and 2 free Eero whole home Wi-Fi routers for only $65 a month. No contracts and free installation at a price that's locked for life. That's right, the price you pay today won't jump up each year like cable. They are expanding to more neighborhoods every day. Visit surfinternet.com to check your address or call 844-955-SURF for details. That's 844-955-SURF. This is a limited time offer and restrictions may apply.
The Red Wave is coming to the LaPorte County Fairgrounds. That's right. The LaPorte County Republican Party would like to invite you to stop by the Midway at the LaPorte County Fairgrounds this Sunday, the 23rd, from 1 to 5 for the Red Wave Rally. It's a chance to meet your local Republican candidates and to find out where they stand with your interests. And come with an empty stomach. Chili, toppings, dessert, and soft drinks will be provided. It's the Red Wave Rally this Sunday, the 23rd, from 1 till 5 at the LaPorte County Fairgrounds. Paid for by the LaPorte County Republican Party.
My name is Ryan Seberg, and I am running for the LaPorte School Board. I am a proud husband, father, and business owner who is deeply invested in the LaPorte community. I want to give back to the school corporation that has given my family so much, creating safe, nurturing, and supported schools that provide an optimal learning environment for our teachers and kids is my top priority. I bring proven leadership and a businessman's approach to the board. On November 8th, vote Seberg for LaPorte School Board.
Paid for by the committee to elect Ryan Seberg to school board.
Vote Fagan 2022. Who is Sean Fagan? He's a lawyer. He's a Republican. Sean Fagan, running for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Sean Fagan knows that LaPorte County is a great place to live, and he wants to keep it that way. Sean Fagan for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Be safe. Be strong. Let's work together. Vote Sean Fagan 2022. This message paid for by Fagan for Prosecutor.
The Gold Clipper Pet Salon and Resort, located at 112 J Street in LaPorte, is considered one of the best grooming salons in LaPorte. The Gold Clipper, open since 1985, offers a variety of services to ensure your pet has a pleasant experience in a stress-free environment. The Gold Clipper also offers daycare and boarding for your precious best friend. Stop in and check out their selection of solid gold dog and cat food, as well as an assortment of treats. For more info, call them at 219-324-5000 or go to their website, www.goldclipper.com.
Hi, I'm Connie Grammarosa, and I'm running for commissioner because I care about our county. As a current council member, I've questioned the large expenditures that go through as emergency purchases when indeed they should be routine maintenance. While making financial decisions, I put you, the taxpayer, first. My opponent used your tax dollars to install mute buttons in the commissioner's meeting room to mute you, the taxpayer. I will make a motion to have them removed. I will strongly advise that we have public comment not only at the beginning of meetings but at the end, giving you the opportunity to voice your opinion. One of the commissioner's duties as CEO is to oversee the day-to-day operations. Some will argue it's a part-time position. I pledge to be a full-time commissioner. I'm Connie Grammarosa, and I'm asking for your vote on or before November 8th. I'm Connie Grammarosa, and I approve this message.
Thank you for tuning in to Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to our final segment of Sound Off today. We're in a slew of candidate shows for you to help introduce you to who's on your ballot. We're giving you access to as many candidates as we can. Today, we've got Democratic Indiana 2 candidate who's running for Congress. Again, half of you in LaPorte in the city is in that district. Obviously, most of you in the eastern part of the county, those of you in the western part of St. Joe County that listen, you're also in that district as well. Democrat Paul Sturry is running in there against Republican Rudy Yakin. All right, we've got some more questions. Again, what is your view on abortion? There's a lot of people that say Democrats want to favor abortion up until birth. Is that your position, or do you have a more nuanced position? Go ahead and give that to our listeners.
Well, I tell people I'm a privacy rights person, and so I do not like SB 1 just because it's making big government, which I think is really unusual for Republicans, want to do big government ideas of government saying women can't do certain things. A woman needs to make their own decisions with herself, with their spouse, with their pastor, with their doctor. I mean, yeah, no one really likes abortion because it's dangerous, and it's usually for a reason that is really hard for that woman. And so that should be their decision and their decision only, and not the government's. I would really like to codify Roe. I do not like the Dobbs decision at all because, first, though, they are making this idea with abortion statewide or state decision. And it just so happens I'm married to a black woman and I'm a white guy. And one thing, I'm not sure if you remember, Senator Braun said Loving versus Virginia should not have been a federal case. It should be a state-by-state case. I disagree 100%, and I'm scared just because of that way of thinking that some Congress people have. I've invited Senator Braun to my house for supper because I want to make sure that he has supper with my wife, and I love her because I want to make sure that I have this opportunity to have an interracial marriage the rest of my life, and then not have big government say you can't do it, which I think we're smart enough and we're respectful enough. But then again, we just made this decision with women and their own rights. I'm hearing from lots of women, not just Democrat women. I'm hearing from Republican women say that these Republican women are saying that they cannot vote Republican this year because of the decision that was made. And I say, well, I'm going to be a respectful person for women all the time. I'm a firm believer in equal rights. We have to make sure that women are on the same playing field as men and not being inferior, which I think SB 1 and the Dobbs decision both insinuated.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you did believe in the Inflation Reduction Act of President Biden's administration. Did you say that?
I did.
Yeah. So there's some questions here that we've received about inflation, these kind of things. Do you believe that it's working? Obviously, inflation seems to be very high still. Wages increased, but that seems to be wiped out by much of, the increases of inflation as well. What can Democrats do, if you're going to be in the House to combat that, if it seems like the Inflation Reduction Act didn't do its intended goal of actually reducing inflation?
Well, one thing you have to know about the Inflation Reduction Act, and if you take a look at a lot of research on the internet, I know you can't always trust the internet, but there's some really good articles out there that are... The Inflation Reduction Act is a long-term solution. It's not an immediate one. Inflation is a global problem. It's a global situation. It is not something that we alone are having right now. We are actually in the middle realm of our peer countries. There's other countries similar to us that actually have higher inflation rates. What can we do? Well, one thing I'd like to do is actually offer some green incentives to small business owners to create housing. And why is that? Because we have a housing problem right now. And what inflation is, you just need to start making things happen and making purchasing power happen better. And I want to give these incentives to not just small business, but also small people of color businesses, and also industry that go after green incentives, because this Inflation Reduction Act is focused on climate. Why not District 2, that is one of the most creative, one of the finest industrial areas in the entire country? Why not incentivize making solar panels? Why do we have to purchase solar panels all the time from China? Why don't we create them here? We have this opportunity. We are an incredible region, and I want to make that happen. I would love to make these green incentives happen as soon as I get into DC. I know I'm one of 435, but I'm a gregarious person who loves to talk, and I'm pretty good at convincing people to go certain ways. And I'd really like to, we got this Inflation Reduction Act. Let's take advantage of it here in District 2.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to give you the final word. Where can people find out more about you, Paul?
I have a website, paulforall22.com. And you can also have a Facebook page, and of course, Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. And take a look at what you see. I'm an educator and an environmental education professor, and I would just really love to take my knowledge and wisdom and my desire and passion and my charisma and gregariousness to the White House to make sure that all people are respected. And actually, my slogan is Paul for All, because I truly would like to represent all 730,000 people of District 2.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. It's been a joy talking to you and getting to know you a little bit more. Find out more about Paul online if you'd like. And again, we're going to try to line up Rudy Yakim as well. We've reached out to his team. Hopefully they'll get back with us. I know candidates are super busy right now, but hopefully we'll get you that opportunity as well. I want to thank you again for listening to the show. We'll be back on Friday. We're going to take a break from the election show. We've got Mayor Tom Dermody coming in. I'm going to be on vacation that week or that day. Dennis Siddell, I'm going to hand the keys over to. I'll be praying for you all during that show. But again, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back then. Be good to yourself, be good to others, and keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. Sound Off airs every Monday and Friday at 12:30. Please mark your calendar and join us again for the next edition of Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle. Your home for country music variety is 96.7 The Eagle, WCOE FM LaPorte.
Michiana weather. Scattered rain showers likely this afternoon, otherwise cloudy. Highs level off around 42, winds out of the northwest, 20 to 25 miles per hour. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. Right now, 37.
Just push play, not everybody's first verse sounds the same, but we all get born and we all get raised where there is some boondocks on Marina Del Rey.